Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the POMcast on this Thursday morning. We've got a good bit of stuff to get to today. Not to mention, tomorrow there will not be a show. I'm getting the first dose of my vaccine at about 11:15. As you can see, that would kind of play heck with having a show. So no show tomorrow. I've got to drive to Tampa and get it. That's about an hour away. And so my Friday is going to be spent in transit. But thank you for joining us today. I am Stephen Willis, and this is the POMcast on this March 18th. 2018. Before we get into everything, I just want to remind everybody that all the information that they could want about Ole Miss sports is available over at the Rebel Walk. Tune into the Rebel Walk where their team of analysts will cover Ole Miss sports inside and out like really no other. So tune into the Rebel Walk for your written conversation. They've been a fantastic partner with us. So far, we're doing our POMcast and their analysts coming on the Positively Ole Miss channel to provide basically analysts activities. So our instant reactions, you've seen those. We're going to do a recruiting show. We're going to expand this more and more as we go forward. So stay locked into that. Just a little note, there's not going to be a POMcast tomorrow. I repeat, there is not going to be a POMcast tomorrow because I'm going to get my vaccination, and that is happening during the time frame when I normally live stream. But I will say this, there should be an instant reaction with Trevor Oxley Friday night after the NIT game, Ole Miss versus Louisiana Tech. We'll get to that in just a second, but we're planning on doing an instant reaction. We're going to do a series reaction after the Auburn series this weekend as well, and we'll probably touch on during the basketball instant reaction how the girls did tomorrow night as well. So tomorrow is shaping up to be a very busy day in Ole Miss sports. Also in the second part of the show, we're going to continue our spring prospectus and hit the linebackers. The linebackers they're on deck today. So before we get really kicked into it, we're going to hit Kermit Davis. And he had a few words to say about the upcoming NIT game, and it's kind of a new thing. It's the first time Ole Miss is a number one seed in any competition in basketball. It's a pretty big story, even if it's the NIT. But this is what Kermit had to say.
Our team obviously had their heart set on playing in the NCAA. So proud of our guys down the stretch. Really the third best record in the SEC in the second half. It's behind Alabama and Arkansas. Great effort against LSU. It was just a tremendous college game. Give LSU credit down the stretch. They asked us to stay in Nashville just to be under the COVID protocol, and because they knew we were tight, close in that bubble. Some things happened, some upsets, that probably hurt our chances on Saturday. But we stayed in Nashville, watched the selection show, and then obviously we didn't get selected. We drove back, heard the news of the NIT, so excited. I've been in it 3 or 4 times at different schools, been a part of some great wins in the NIT, and to be the first ever number one seed in the history of Ole Miss. And when you look at it, guys, Ole Miss has been playing basketball for 111 years, and it's our 22nd postseason tournament. So So I'm excited for our guys. And so we're going to go play a really well-coached, good Louisiana.
Yes, they're going to play a very well-coached Louisiana Tech team, but they might do it with a couple of stars out. Devontae Shuler is going to be with his mother who's having surgery. No blame game there. But they could be without Devontae Shuler for this game. And also, KJ Buffin has entered the transfer portal and opted out of the NIT this year. So that's two people that you thought you were planning on counting on that you were not be able to count on for this Louisiana Tech game. Now, what does this mean? This means that we get to see Jarkel Joyner as kind of the alpha. I'm looking forward to seeing what his team looks like. Now, I understand Romello White's still there, but in the future, in the transfer portal, I assume that Ole Miss is going to find a big, and they're going to recruit a guy. They're probably already recruiting a guy because they're down currently KJ Buffin, Demencio Vaughn, Sean Robinson, and Hadim C. So there's going to be a makeup rebuild. Now you've got Deshaun Ruffin coming in. You've got James White coming in. And I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but the kid from Tennessee, the really good basketball player from Tennessee. I apologize for spacing on your name real quick. I'll just call it a brain surgery moment. But those players, now you can go recruit a couple of bigs, and you can replace those transfer players and work to build up. Now, Ole Miss has never had a McDonald's All-American until next year. The Deshaun Ruffin coming in, he's probably going to come on and take over the point guard. You'll have Jarkel Joyner at the 2. I think you should look out for Matthew Morrell at the 3. He obviously can play a little too, but he provides a lot of the same stuff that Elrod does, and he's going to come back as well. So he's going to be like 3 and 4 type player. Whenever we go small, he'll probably play the 4. So you need to recruit a couple of bigs. You need to recruit another Romello type. He was with COVID coming in and everything. It was a bad year to do this because so much was against you. Coming into the season, Ole Miss was the last Power 5 team to start. It was hard on a new player coming in. That's the same thing with Demencio Vaughn as well. So just looking at that, it's going to be more of a normal type situation, normal camp. It's going to build up to what we're used to seeing. And I don't anticipate seeing levels of basically newness and strangeness. Because if you notice, if you look at the NCAA tournaments, all the one and done teams that are historically one and done struggled this year. So any player transferring to a new environment would go through that same thing. That's just common sense. But Ole Miss versus Louisiana Tech, 8 o'clock Central on ESPN2 Friday. The girls are on Flow Hoops. If you already have a Flow subscription, you should still have that first month, depending on when you ordered, available. So try to log in through your credentials that you watch the baseball tournament with. If you have it, that should be available on Flow Hoops. Ole Miss Lady Rebs playing Sanford. Coach O will not coach because of COVID. But I'm looking forward to that game just because it's a continuation of the build of the young ladies. And they're kind of a fun team to watch. They're kind of a fun story to watch. They are a story of absolutely picking yourself up off the mat and making yourself into something a little bit better. But they play Sanford at 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern on Flow Sports. Now, this weekend also, the baseball series is set up to go. And Gunnar Hoagland's going to get another Friday as we start SEC play. Doug Nikhazy is still a little bit injured, but that's a good thing. He's leading the nation in strikeouts. He's a good Friday guy. But that goes to show you how powerful we are whenever he's a Saturday guy, and how it forces mismatches in the rotation. Him and Nikhazy are a special combination, and that gets us to Saturday. And Derek Diamond's been quite good as well. He's been hitting 96 with pretty regularity. But that game, Hoagland Friday, McDaniel Saturday, Diamond on Sunday. That looks to be the rotation. But you have that. When we come back in a little bit, let's see. We talked about baseball. We talked about women's hoop. We talked about hoops. Yeah, we're getting ready to take a break, and we'll come back and we'll hit the spring prospectus and what we're looking for from the linebacker positions, because it's a little bit different. Now, I'm going to include Sam Williams in that group, and I'm going to include him in defensive line. So I understand he's in both, but that's a hybrid position. When we were running 4-3 principles, he's basically playing as a 4-3 defensive end, whether his hands up or not. If we're playing 3-4 principles, he's playing outside linebacker like he did when McIntyre was here. So it's versatility. Him, Brandon Mack, Tavian Robinson, it's a versatile position. The buck position is a versatile position. It's just like the star. The star is another one. It's doing linebacker things and safety things. That's what they're playing. You can put a corner out there. It allows you to adapt personnel and adapt fairly quickly, because you have one position that is going to know two position groups, basically. So you can do a lot of different things. And everybody wanted to bag on DJ Durkin last year, but it's the same thing. It was no spring, slow install. You saw that whenever at the beginning of the season, when it was basically a disaster unit out there. But now, as the season went on, it got better and better and better. And by the Outback Bowl, they were pretty darn good unit, even if they were undersized and different players playing certain positions. I mean, Tyler Knight at 5'6", playing basically the star, is something to behold. It really is. He's probably my favorite player on that defense, that whole defense. And it's coming on. It's getting better and better and better. And sports, like everything else, is confidence driven. If you think something's going to happen, there's a chance it's going to happen. If you don't think something's going to happen, there's no way it's going to happen, because you basically defended yourself and kept yourself from getting there. But, whenever we get into the defensive backs on Monday, our last position group before spring practice, Jake Evans will be on to talk football Monday as well on the POMcast. So we'll be doing a little Rebel Walk goodness to do a preview of spring practice along with the defensive backs. I'm excited about the defensive backs. I'm really excited about the defensive backs. Tysheem Johnson is my favorite player coming in this class. He's got Honey Badger qualities about him. I'm not saying he's going to be the Honey Badger, because whenever he gets here, he has to do the things that make him the Honey Badger. But he has that athletic ability and that special ability. And it's something to keep an eye on as we move forward. We're going to take a short break. Whenever we come back, we are going to talk. Let's see. What are we going to talk about? Oh, yeah. Spring perspectives. Ole Miss football right here. Stick around.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, welcome back to the POMcast. Time for our spring prospectus. We're looking at the linebackers, and there's going to be players that we miss and not talk a great deal about it. I mean, it's going to be a big spring for the young guys, Austin Keys and such. But we're going to concentrate on the front four going into the spring training, because this is a very important spring for them. Now, you have Momo Sanogo and Lakia Henry, who are really good 3-4 linebackers. That's what you need to know. They are really good whenever they are going A gap to B gap, A gap to C gap. They are less effective whenever they're asked to go sideline to sideline. So you have a physical limitation right there that you're trying to call around and coach around. So it's going to be a big spring for them. I mean, you might be a situation where you want to lose 10 pounds to get a little bit quicker to go sideline to sideline, because the linebackers in this defense are asked to reach a certain level. Whether you can or you can't, it's the determination of whether it's a 2-yard run or a 20-yard run. That just happens. This is a big play, explosive defense, so they're going to ask you to do that. Now, if you can't, that's going to affect the calls and things like that. But we have, let's see, Sam Williams at defensive end. We have Chance Campbell transferring in from Maryland. We have, as you can see, Chance on the screen if you haven't seen him play thus far. He's a very active sideline-to-sideline type linebacker. And we have Jaquez Jones. So that's the secret sauce, I think, with this team, are those two players, Jaquez Jones and Chance Campbell. Those are who I'm predicting will make the largest jump going from spring to summer. They fit the system better than the other two. The other two are fine linebackers. Don't hear me disparaging them in any way. But like I say all the time, system is everything. The worst system decision ever was Troy Aikman going to Oklahoma to run the wishbone. He was not a wishbone quarterback. Once he got in the right system at UCLA, he took off, ended up being the number 1 pick in the draft, the Dallas Cowboys, the whole 9 yards. But he started with a horrible system decision to go to Oklahoma. And I understand that was the home state team. And he was probably an Oklahoma fan. He always wanted to go there. But it just didn't fit. If you don't fit, you're not going to reach the same level that if you did. And will actually hurt you in your NFL career going forward. So it's actually worthwhile to understand that. Now, the system at Ole Miss is designed, it's about fun. It's not so much pigeonholing a type of player into a certain type of system. It's not necessarily about that. It's more about the program, the big picture stuff. It's about a lot of fun. It's about competition. And once that culture is instilled, you will see them drill down more onto the system players. Yesterday we talked about the defensive line and Sam Williams and the path he could take. It's a hybrid. He can play the outside linebacker and play with his hands down. So we're going to count him in both position groups because he plays outside linebacker. He's 260 pounds and can run a sub 4.5 40. He is probably our most athletic and most talented defensive player. Last season, with what happened and everything, it was a little bit slow building into the system. I mean, there was a lot of things that happened to this defense that's completely out of their control that ended up with them being slowed and, personnel, because coaches traditionally are very, very slow decision makers. They want to see 50 hours of film on somebody before they know whether or not they can trust them enough to put them in position. It's very risk adverse. So whenever we have no spring last year, whenever our fall camp was essentially just a game week style practice, it cut down on the film. It cut down on the decision making. Personnel going up and down. That's the reason our defense for the Florida game looks so much different than the Mississippi State game. As film started to get there and they started to see that they could trust them, all of a sudden the personnel was right, when it would normally happen during the spring, the summer, and the fall camp. See. Sorry about that. Call coming in. But that is what you need to look at with coaches, and that's the reason DJ Durkin's defense in year one should not really be held to account, and that's the reason I congratulate Lane Kiffin for not going overboard with that, because there were so many factors that happened that got Ole Miss where they were defensively, that you can't just blame a defensive coordinator through 1 year. You can see them improving over the course of the year. So that's there. But I expect Jacquez Jones and Chance Campbell to eventually come out of that room and be the guys. Those would be the two linebackers. And situationally, you have Momo Sanogo and Lakia Henry. Whenever you want to play goal line, the bigger linebackers, they're there. You have that in your toolbox. I don't see them necessarily being an every down player, but it's potentially could happen. I mean, they could drop weight. You have to wait for the off season to see what happens. You have a spring and a fall camp, so I could be completely off base here, and I understand that. But from what I have seen of the defense in year one, the players that fit that defense would be Jacquez Jones, who had a fantastic Outback Bowl, by the way, and Chance Campbell. Sam Williams on the outside, playing the buck position, the hybrid position. Brandon Mack backing him up. Tavian Robinson. This is a huge spring for him if he wants to play that position. And he might be a 4-down rush end in that position and then move inside or move to one of the hand-down defensive ends in the 3-4. That's a possibility for him. But he came from Canada last year. Nothing, just completely new, completely raw. Learning how to play in the SEC. I mean, just think of how big of a jump that was and what you needed to learn. He was a quick study. He was actually playing some at the end of the year at Buck and with his hand down. And that was an effort likely to get him and Sam Williams on the field at the same time. So it's a huge spring for him. Huge spring. I expect him to make a decent-sized jump from year one to year two. Just like Darius Leonard, by the way. I don't want to give away Monday's podcast too much, but I expect him to make a big jump as well. And we're probably also going to touch on a little bit of the kicking game as well Monday, because spring practice starts Tuesday. So that You got some quarterbacks in the room, Lakia Henry and Momo Sanogo. That's fantastic. I mean, you want them there. They're good people. You have players that fit the system in Jacquez Jones and Chance Campbell. Linebacker position is just fascinating. It just really is. We have players, and we have high-level players. And remember, it's all about perspective when it comes to the linebackers. We're not in a position to where we were in 2017 and 2018 at the linebacker position. That's not what I'm talking about. We're actually quite good in that room right now. It's just a matter of mixing, matching, and calling a defense that will accentuate their gifts. And doing so, they will be better for it. Because everything, you want to make the person next to you better. That's the whole purpose behind this. You want the person behind you, next to you, to be better. If you can make those people better, your team's going to be better. And all of a sudden, you can compete. I'm going to give you probably a couple of minutes back. But until Monday, remember, no show tomorrow. I'm getting vaccinated, and I'll be back at 11 Eastern, 10 Central on Monday with our last day of our prospectus with Jake Evans from the Rebel Walk. So stick around for that. But everything else going on, just want everybody to know. Enjoy Friday. Busy day Friday. 2 NIT games and the baseball game. Enjoy those this weekend. Baseball giving away a game day button for the Auburn season series for the first 750 fans that enter Swayze Field, Oxford University Stadium. So that's worth keeping an eye on as well. Buttons are pretty cool. All right, but until Monday, hope everybody has a good weekend, and I will see you then.